The board on the bunkhouse wall had 7 tally marks scratched into the paint. One for each man who'd gone into the round pen with blackjack that year and come back over the fence before the job was done. Nobody added their marks with pride. They added them because Cleet Harmon, the foreman, kept the count as a warning. 7 men, 7 failures. The last one, a hand named Darrell who'd worked cattle for 19 years across 4 states, had cleared the fence so fast that he left a boot in the dirt. He didn't go back for it until the next morning, and even then he sent someone else. Blackjack, 7 years old, 1,200 pounds of registered Angus. The best genetics on the Duke Tanner Ranch outside of Phillips, South Dakota. His calves gained faster, graded higher, and sold for more than anything else in the program. Worth $40,000 in semen rights alone. On paper, the most valuable animal on 22,000 acres. In the pen, he was something else. He didn't warn. That was what made him different from every difficult bull the crew had handled before. A normal difficult bull gives you signals. Head drops, pawing, a bellow that says, "I'm about to move and you should too." Blackjack gave nothing. He'd stand calm, watch you approach, let you think you had a read on him. And then he'd come. No transition between still and moving, like a switch that skipped the middle position. 6 men had tried to work him into the squeeze chute for his annual breeding exam. 6 men had read his body language, found what they thought was a window, and discovered that the window was a wall painted to look like a window. The 7th, Darrell with the lost boot, hadn't even tried to read him. He just walked in, said a prayer, and started moving. Blackjack put him over the fence in 9 seconds. Dr. Russell Ware, the large animal vet out of Pierre, had handled Tanner cattle for 15 years. He needed Blackjack in the chute. The breeding soundness exam was overdue by 2 months. Duke Tanner's registered program required annual certification on every sire. No exam, no registration, no premium on the calves. The math was simple and expensive. "I can sedate him," Russell offered on the phone. "Dart him from outside the pen." But Duke, sedating a bull for routine handling is a red flag for buyers. It goes on the record. It says this animal can't be worked. Duke Tanner sat in his office and looked at the tally board through the window across the yard. He was 64, 3rd generation on this ground. The kind of man who measured words the way he measured fence posts. Carefully, and only as many as the job required. His ranch manager, a woman named Vivian Cole, had been telling him for 2 years to sell Blackjack. Vivian was 51, MBA from South Dakota State, hired specifically to modernize the operations business side. She understood spreadsheets better than she understood cattle, which was her strength and her limitation. "That bull is a liability," Vivian told Duke at the Monday meeting. 7 handling failures this year. The insurance carrier flagged it. "If someone gets seriously hurt, we're exposed. Sell him, collect the genetics through AI, and buy a bull you can actually work with." She wasn't wrong. Duke knew she wasn't wrong. But selling Blackjack meant admitting that the best genetics his program had ever produced came in a package his operation couldn't handle. And that admission tasted like something he wasn't ready to swallow. "Give me until the end of the month," Duke said. "For what?" "I don't know yet." The job listing went up at the Phillip feed store on a Tuesday. Ranch hand needed. Experience with cattle required, housing available. Josie Raines saw it on Thursday. She'd driven 3 hours from the Pine Ridge area looking for work after the ranch where she'd been day laboring shut down for the winter. She was 24. She owned a 12-year-old buckskin mare named Rook, a saddle her mother had left her, and a set of skills that didn't fit on a resume because nobody had ever asked her to write one. She'd grown up on her grandmother's allotment near Kyle. 40 acres of reservation land. Her grandmother ran a handful of cattle with no hired help, no squeeze chute, no hydraulic equipment. Just open pens, a rope, and the kind of knowledge that gets passed from hand to hand instead of classroom to classroom. Her grandmother taught her one thing about cattle that was worth more than any degree. Don't look at the animal. Look at the space around the animal. The animal does what the space tells it to do. You control the space. You don't need to control the animal. Duke hired Josie based on her hands. He looked at them during the interview. and saw calluses in places that only come from years of rope work and wire stretching. He didn't ask about her education, didn't ask about certifications. In the ranching business, hands tell you everything a resume tries to hide. Josie's first week was invisible. She rode fence, moved pairs, checked water tanks and pastures so far from the headquarters that the radio didn't reach. She did what she was told, did it well, and didn't talk about it afterward. The crew, 5 men who'd been working Tanner cattle for years, watched her the way experienced hands watch new hires. Not hostile, just measuring. She didn't mention Blackjack, didn't ask about him. But every evening after her work was done, she walked to the round pen where the bull was kept and stood at the fence. Not leaning on it, not looking in, standing near it, 20 feet from the rails, close enough that the bull knew she was there, far enough that her presence carried no pressure. She did this for 9 days. Same time, same distance, same stillness. Cleet noticed on day 3, told Duke on day 5. The new girl stands near Blackjack's pen every evening. Doesn't go in, doesn't try anything, just stands there. Duke looked out his office window toward the round pen. He couldn't see Josie from this angle, but he could see Blackjack. The bull was standing on the near side of the pen, the side closest to where Josie would be standing. That was unusual. Blackjack normally occupied the far side, facing away from anything human. "Leave her alone," Duke said. On day 10, Josie asked Duke a question. She found him at the barn, oiling a headstall. She stood at a respectful distance and waited until he noticed her. Mr. Tanner, the bull in the round pen. "What's his problem?" Duke set down the headstall. 1,200 pounds and no warning system. You can't read him. He doesn't telegraph. Every man who's gone in there has misjudged the window and ended up over the fence. Josie was quiet for a moment. "Has anyone tried not going in?" Duke looked at her. "What do you mean?" "Your men go into the pen and try to direct him toward the chute. He reads their pressure and finds the gap before they can close it. So they add more pressure. More men, more panels. And he finds bigger gaps faster. You're escalating a conversation that he's already winning." Duke studied her. She was 24. He'd been working cattle since before she was born. But something in her voice had the weight of a question that deserved an answer instead of a dismissal. What would you do different? Not go in. Change the pen. Make the chute the only comfortable place to be. Not through pressure, through design. His instinct is to move away from confinement. So stop trying to push him into confinement. Make the open space less appealing than the closed space. Let the geometry do the work. Duke almost said no. Almost said, "We've been handling cattle on this ranch for 3 generations, and I'm not going to redesign my facilities based on advice from a hand who's been here 10 days. But then he remembered the tally board. 7 marks. 7 men. And a bull standing on the near side of the pen for the first time in years because a woman had spent 9 evenings standing 20 feet away doing nothing. "Show me," Duke said. Josie spent the next 3 days modifying the round pen. She didn't ask for help, used materials from the junk pile behind the barn. Old panels, gates, sections of pipe fence that had been replaced and stacked. She curved the alley leading to the squeeze chute, widened the entrance, built what she called a turnback box at the front. A small area where the bull's natural instinct to reverse direction would redirect him toward the chute instead of away from it. Cleet watched the construction with skepticism. Vivian watched it with impatience. "She's rearranging furniture on a sinking ship," Vivian told Duke. "That bull needs to be sold, not accommodated." Duke didn't respond. On Saturday morning, the crew assembled at the round pen. Russell Ware drove down from Pierre with his exam kit. Cleet and 4 hands positioned themselves outside the pen with sorting sticks they expected to need. Josie opened the pen gate from the outside, didn't enter, stood to the side, leaving the gate wide and the path to the modified alley clear. Blackjack was at the far end of the pen. He looked at the open gate, looked at the humans outside the fence, looked at the alley entrance, wider now, curved, leading somewhere he couldn't quite see. Josie waited. Didn't move, Didn't speak. 2 minutes. Blackjack shifted his weight, took a step toward the gate, stopped. His head swung left and right, reading the space the way he always read it. Calculating geometry, measuring gaps, looking for the pressure that always came. There was no pressure. The gate was open. The alley was wide. The humans were outside the fence. The only movement in the pen was Blackjack's own. 3 minutes. He walked to the gate, paused at the threshold. His massive head lowered to sniff the ground at the alley entrance. The curved walls ahead of him were unfamiliar, but they weren't threatening. They were just walls. Guiding, not trapping. 4 minutes. Blackjack walked into the alley, followed the curve, reached the turnback box where the space narrowed, and his instinct said, reverse. He turned, and the turn put him facing the chute entrance, the only open path ahead. He walked into the chute. Russell Ware closed the head gate, conducted the exam in 7 minutes. Blackjack stood without thrashing, without kicking, not calm exactly, but contained, processing the experience without the explosive response that had defined every previous attempt. When it was done, Russell opened the chute. Blackjack walked out, trotted to the far side of the round pen, turned and stood. The crew was silent for a 10 count. Then Cleet said what everyone was thinking. Nobody went in the pen. Josie was coiling a lead rope near the gate. She didn't look up. That's the point. Russell Ware packed his equipment, walked to Duke. In 15 years of handling your cattle, that's the cleanest pen work I've seen. And nobody touched him. Duke was gripping the fence rail. He'd watched the whole thing without speaking, without moving, without breathing for some of it. He found Josie at the bunkhouse that afternoon. She was brushing rook outside the small corral. Where did you learn that? My grandmother. 40 acres, 30 head, no chute, no crew. You learn different when there's nobody to call if it goes wrong. Duke leaned on the corral fence. Vivian wants me to sell him. Josie kept brushing. That's one option. What's the other? Keep him. Change the system. Your handling facilities were designed for average cattle. He's not average. The system fails because it wasn't built for him. You don't need a different bull. You need a different conversation with the one you have. Duke looked at her. Something shifted in his expression. Not defeat. Recognition. The look of a man who'd been holding a position for 7 years and just realized the position was wrong. He called a meeting that evening. Vivian, Cleet, the full crew. We're not selling Blackjack, Duke said. We're redesigning our handling system. Josie's going to lead the project. Vivian opened her mouth. Duke raised a hand. I've spent 7 years trying to force that bull into a system that doesn't fit him. 7 failures. And today a 24-year-old woman moved him through the chute without entering the pen, without raising her voice, and without a single person at risk. If that's not enough evidence that we've been doing this wrong, then I don't know what evidence looks like. Vivian closed her mouth. Cleet nodded slowly. The crew looked at Josie with something that hadn't been there the week before. Not admiration exactly. Recalibration. Over the next 2 months, Josie redesigned every handling facility on the Tanner Ranch. Curved alleys, wider entrances, bud boxes at every chute. Solid sides on the working alleys so cattle couldn't see through and balk at movement outside. Non-slip flooring in the chute area. The injury rate during processing dropped to 0. Working time per head dropped by 40%. Stress indicators in the cattle, vocalization, balking, reversal attempts, dropped by more than half. Vivian reviewed the numbers at the end of the 2nd month. She sat in Duke's office with the spreadsheet in front of her and a look on her face that Duke had never seen before. Something between professional humility and personal recalculation. The efficiency gains alone justify the facility investment 3 times over, Vivian said. Processing costs are down. Injury liability is eliminated. And the cattle are grading higher at slaughter because lower stress means better meat quality. She paused. I was wrong about the bull. Duke almost smiled. You were wrong about the system. The bull was right the whole time. We just weren't listening. Josie was offered the foreman position in June. Cleet supported it, told Duke privately, "She sees things I've been looking at for 20 years and never saw. I'm not too old to learn, but I'm old enough to know when someone's better at this than I am." Josie took the job. She's been running the crew for 7 months. The Tanner operation handles 800 head-through facilities, designed by a woman who learned stockmanship on 40 acres with no equipment, and a grandmother who never read a manual in her life. Blackjack walks into the chute twice a year now. No dart, no sedation, no one inside the pen. The curved alley and the turnback box do the work. The space tells him where to go, and he goes. Because that was always the answer. Not a stronger hand, not a louder voice, not more men on the fence. A different shape to the room, and someone quiet enough to see it.